Be me, Nicholas, just another guy trying to get through the week. I work in what you'd call the tech sector. It's one of those companies with a bright, open plan office, free snacks that are always the healthy kind nobody really wants, and a whole lot of corporate jargon about synergy and disruption. You know the type. My team was small, just four of us, plus our manager who was almost always remote. The team consisted of Bianca, Alexa, Indy, and me. I was the only guy. This wasn't a problem in itself. I'm here to do a job, collect a paycheck, and go home. I don't need to be best friends with my coworkers. But it became apparent pretty quickly that I wasn't just a coworker. I was an obstacle. Our manager, Sabrina, was a results-oriented type. As long as the reports looked good and the clients weren't screaming, she didn't care what was happening on the ground floor. This gave Bianca free rein to run the team as her own little fiefdom. Bianca was the self-appointed leader. She was very good at talking. She could talk for 20 minutes straight in a meeting without saying a single concrete thing. All buzzwords and confident smiles. Alexa was her lieutenant. She agreed with everything Bianca said, laughed the loudest at her jokes, and was always ready to add a little dig at my expense. Indy was the quiet one. She just went along with whatever the other two did. She wasn't overtly hostile, but her silence was a form of agreement. She would never make eye contact with me if she could help it. My role was the technical backbone of the entire department. I managed the databases, wrote and maintained all the automated scripts that pulled data for our reports, and handled the server-side logic for our main project. It was the invisible work, the plumbing. Nobody notices it until it breaks. Their work was all front-end, making things look pretty. Client-facing interfaces, presentations, user experience mock-ups, the stuff that looks great in a PowerPoint slide for upper management. Our dynamic was established in the first couple of months. They would have their morning coffee together by the fancy espresso machine. I'd walk over to get a cup, and the conversation would just stop. Dead air. They'd stare at their phones until I walked away. It was awkward at first, then just became part of the routine. I'd sit at my desk, put on my headphones, and get to work. The first real sign of how things were going to be was during a weekly update meeting with Sabrina on Zoom. Bianca was going through our progress. She put up a slide with some flashy new UI designs Alexa had made. Lots of praise from Sabrina. "Great work, team. This looks very clean." Bianca smiled. "We've been working hard to create a more intuitive user journey. Alexa has really been a rock star on this." Then it was my turn to give an update. I started explaining that I had spent the last 3 days migrating our primary database to a new server cluster to handle increased load. It was a critical task to prevent future crashes. Before I could finish, Bianca cut in, laughing a little. "Okay, let's not get bogged down in the technical weeds, Nicholas. The important thing is, it's done, right? Sabrina, the key takeaway is that the back end is now more robust, so we can support the beautiful front-end work we're doing." She framed my entire week's work as a footnote to her team's real work. Sabrina, seeing a box was ticked, just nodded and moved on. "Excellent. Great initiative, Bianca." I just muted my mic and stared at the screen. This became the pattern. My work was essential, but it was treated like janitorial services, something that just happens in the background. Their work was always the star of the show. They started going out for lunch together every day. They wouldn't even be subtle about it. Bianca would stand up and announce, "Okay, girls, lunchtime," and the three of them would walk out, leaving me alone in a silent office. I told myself it didn't matter. I could get more work done. I preferred eating at my desk anyway. But it's a strange feeling, being actively and deliberately excluded. It's like you're a ghost. You're there, but you're not. The real test came about 6 months into the job. It was a Tuesday afternoon, I think. A big project deadline was looming. Suddenly, the entire system went down. Red alerts started flashing on my monitoring dashboard. The main application was throwing a 503 error. The database wasn't responding. Within minutes, the team chat was blowing up with messages from other departments. Clients were calling. It was a full-blown crisis. I saw Bianca, Alexa, and Indy huddled together, looking at their screens with pure panic in their eyes. They were clicking things randomly, refreshing pages, which was the equivalent of hitting a broken machine to make it work. Sabrina called in on an emergency video chat, her face looking stressed. She wanted to know what was going on. Bianca, trying to sound in control, said, "We're looking into it, Sabrina. There seems to be some kind of server-side issue. We're diagnosing the root cause." I knew for a fact they couldn't diagnose a pop-up ad, let alone a database connection pool failure. I was already SSH'd into the server, checking logs. I saw the problem almost immediately. A script that Alexa had written for a new feature was making a ridiculous number of simultaneous requests to the database, completely overwhelming it. It had exhausted all available connections, and the whole thing had locked up. While I was working on killing the rogue script and rebooting the database service, Bianca walked over to my desk. She didn't ask. She demanded, "Nicholas, what is going on with your system? It's completely broken. The whole department is at a standstill because of this." Notice how it was my system when it was broken. I told her I had found the issue and was in the process of fixing it. She just stood there, tapping her foot, as if her presence would somehow speed up the server's reboot sequence. "How long is this going to take?" she asked, her voice sharp with annoyance. "We have a deadline." "About 10 more minutes," I said, without looking up. I got everything back online. The application started responding. The errors disappeared. The crisis was over. The whole thing took about 25 minutes from crash to recovery. I sat back, took a deep breath, and was about to explain what had happened so we could prevent it in the future. But before I could, I overheard Bianca on her call with Sabrina. Her voice was bright and cheerful again. "Good news, Sabrina. We've resolved the issue. It was a tricky one, a subtle bug in a recent deployment, but Alexa and I managed to trace it and apply a hotfix. We're back online. Just a great example of our team's agile problem-solving skills." I felt my blood run cold. She wasn't just taking credit. She was building a narrative where I didn't even exist, where they were the heroes who saved the day. Sabrina, none the wiser, praised them for their quick work under pressure. Bianca hung up and walked past my desk. She didn't even look at me. Later that day, I saw an email she sent to the department head, CCing Sabrina. The subject was post-mortem on today's outage. It was a masterpiece of corporate fiction. It detailed how the team noticed the anomaly, how they collaborated to diagnose the problem, and how Alexa's deep understanding of the new feature was crucial in finding the fix. My name was not mentioned once. That was the day I stopped caring about being a team player. My new goal was simple: do my job, do it perfectly, and document everything. I started keeping a private log of my work. Every task, every bug fix, every optimization. The social exclusion got worse. They started a private group chat. I only knew because I saw Alexa's screen one day. It was named the Girl Boss Guild, or something equally cringeworthy. They would be typing away, and suddenly all three of them would burst out laughing at the same time. It was a very effective way of making me feel like an outsider in my own workspace. They would have team-building activities, like decorating their corner of the office for some holiday. They'd put up streamers and inside jokes on little sticky notes. My desk remained a barren island. It wasn't one big thing. It was 1,000 little paper cuts. Forgetting to invite me to a meeting, then asking me why I wasn't there. Accidentally leaving my name off an email chain about an important decision. Using technical terms incorrectly and then looking at me with a condescending smirk when I tried to gently correct them, as if I was the one being difficult. Bianca once said I was demonstrating a bit of male toxicity by trying to dominate the technical conversation when I pointed out that her plan would literally erase a month's worth of user data. I just stopped trying. I became what they wanted me to be, a machine. I came in, did my work, and left. I spoke only when spoken to, and kept my answers short and to the point. This apparently was also a problem. One day Bianca scheduled a one-on-one with me. She had a very serious look on her face. She told me she was concerned about my lack of engagement with the team culture. She said that my silence in meetings was intimidating, and that I wasn't being a collaborative partner. I almost laughed. They had spent months pushing me out, and now they were complaining that I was too far away. I just nodded and said I would work on it. There was no point in arguing. It was like arguing with a brick wall that thinks it's a great manager. I didn't work on it. I just continued as before. The turning point came on a Friday. I'd had a particularly grueling week. I'd pulled 2 late nights to fix a massive data corruption issue caused by, you guessed it, another one of their half-baked ideas that I had warned them about. I was exhausted. I was planning to just go home and sleep for 12 hours. Around lunchtime, I heard them whispering. It was more animated than usual. I tuned it out and focused on my code. An hour later, I was the only one left in the office. I figured they'd all gone for lunch. I took a break and scrolled through my phone. I happened to open LinkedIn, an app I rarely used. And there it was, a post from Bianca. It was a selfie of the three of them, Bianca, Alexa, and Indy, at a fancy downtown restaurant. They were all holding up glasses of wine, smiling broadly. The caption read, "Celebrating a successful project launch with the best work wives a girl could ask for. So proud of this amazing all-woman team and the incredible culture we've built. Girl power, women in tech, work besties." It was the phrase all-woman team that did it. It was a deliberate public declaration that I was not part of the team. I was nothing. All the work I did, all the late nights, all the times I saved them from their own incompetence. None of it mattered. In their narrative, they did it all themselves. I just sat there, staring at the picture. I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt empty. It was a moment of absolute clarity. I wasn't going to fix this. I couldn't. I wasn't dealing with reasonable people. The only winning move was not to play. I closed the LinkedIn app. Right there on my home screen was a notification badge on my email app. I had an email from a tech recruiter that had come in a few days ago. I had ignored it, as I usually did. I opened it. It was a message about a senior specialist role at a different company. It was a smaller, more focused firm that built complex financial modeling software. The recruiter's message was specific. He mentioned a couple of open source projects I contributed to on GitHub. He had actually looked at my profile. On pure impulse, I wrote back, "Hi, thanks for reaching out. I'm interested in learning more about the position. I'm available for a call next week." I hit send. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. The recruiter called me the next Monday. We had a great conversation. He wasn't just reading from a script. He understood the tech. He set up a technical interview for later that week. I spent 2 nights brushing up on some algorithms, but I wasn't worried. This was the stuff I lived and breathed every day. The interview was with 2 senior engineers and the man who would be my direct manager. It was like a breath of fresh air. We spent an hour diving deep into system architecture, database design, and optimization strategies. They didn't ask me about my team-building skills or passion for synergy. They showed me a complex problem they were facing with data latency, and we workshopped solutions on a virtual whiteboard. They were impressed with my ideas. My future manager, a guy named David, got genuinely excited when I described a caching method I had implemented at my current job. He said, "That's exactly the kind of thinking we need here. We need builders, not just maintainers." The word builder stuck with me. That's what I wanted to be, not the office janitor. At the end of the interview, David told me flat out that they were very interested. He said he valued no-nonsense engineers who were passionate about solving hard problems. The next day, the recruiter called with an offer. It was for a lead technical specialist position. The salary was 30% higher than what I was currently making. It also came with a significant signing bonus and better benefits. I didn't even have to think about it. I accepted on the spot. The next 2 weeks were strange. I had this huge secret, and it made my daily interactions with Bianca and the others almost comical. Their passive aggression, their little exclusionary tactics, none of it touched me anymore. It was like watching a movie that I was no longer in. I spent my time meticulously documenting every single aspect of my job. I drew up architecture diagrams. I wrote detailed guides for every automated script, explaining the logic and the dependencies. I created a step-by-step procedure for database maintenance and emergency recovery. I didn't do it for them. I did it for myself. As a professional, I was handing over my work in perfect condition. No one could ever accuse me of leaving a mess. Finally, the day came. I scheduled a video call with Sabrina. It was a Monday morning. I kept it short and professional. I told her I had received another offer and had decided to accept it. My last day would be in 2 weeks. She was genuinely surprised. I was the quiet, reliable one, the guy who never caused any problems. People like me aren't supposed to leave. She went through the standard script. "Oh, we're very sorry to hear that, Nicholas. Is there anything we can do to change your mind? A counteroffer, perhaps?" I politely declined. "Thank you, but my decision is final. It's about the opportunity, not the money." She sighed, realizing she couldn't just throw money at the problem. "Okay then, please send me the official resignation letter and we'll coordinate with HR." That was it. The The easy part was over. Now I had to tell the team. I waited until our morning huddle. Bianca was talking about some new color palette she wanted to use for the app's buttons. When she finally paused for breath, I unmuted my mic. "I have an announcement to make," I said. "I've accepted a position at another company. My last day will be 2 weeks from today." There was a moment of stunned silence. Then Bianca's face broke into a tight corporate smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "Well," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Wow, Nicholas, that's certainly news. We wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors, of course." Alexa had a smirk on her face, as if I had just proven her right about something. Like I was the one who couldn't hack it in their perfect little team. Indy just stared at her screen, looking vaguely uncomfortable. Bianca continued, "I'm sure this is a great opportunity for you to find a work environment that's a better cultural fit. We'll manage just fine here." The subtext was crystal clear. "We don't need you. We're better off without you." I just nodded. "I'll be focusing on a full knowledge transfer over the next 2 weeks to ensure a smooth transition." "Great," Bianca chirped, already moving on. "So, about those buttons." And that was it. No questions, no, "we'll miss you." Just a dismissal. For the next 2 weeks, they treated me with a mixture of pity and contempt. They saw me leaving as a failure on my part. I was the nail that stuck out and got hammered down. I tried to schedule a handover meeting. "Can we find an hour to go over the server architecture?" I asked. Bianca waved a hand dismissively. "Just put it in the documentation, Nicholas. We're all smart people. We'll figure it out. We're very busy with the new feature launch." They didn't ask a single question. Not one. They were too arrogant, too convinced that the work I did was simple and unimportant, that they could just pick it up whenever they felt like it. My last day was a Friday. It was almost comically anticlimactic. At 4 p.m., they came over to my desk. Alexa handed me a gift bag. Inside was a generic coffee mug with a slogan on it like, "You don't have to be crazy to work here, but it helps." I could tell they'd bought it from the gift shop in the lobby. "We'll miss you, Nicholas," Bianca said, with all the sincerity of an automated email. I packed my things in a small box, my keyboard, my mouse, a couple of books. As I walked towards the elevator, I looked back. The 3 of them were already huddled together, laughing about something. They didn't even watch me go. The elevator doors closed, and I was out. I felt an incredible sense of relief. It was over. I had no idea that the real story was just beginning. My first week at the new company was a blur, but in a good way. The office was quieter, more focused. No one was trying to build a such girl boss empire. They were just trying to build good software. On my first day, my new manager, David, introduced me to the team. They didn't just nod and look away. They asked me questions about my background, what tech stacks I liked, what I was passionate about. It was a conversation among peers. It felt normal. By Wednesday, I was already deep into a new project, designing a system architecture from scratch. I was given autonomy and trust from day one. David's attitude was, "You're the expert. Tell us what you think is the best approach." It was the complete opposite of being treated like the guy who just fixes the plumbing. I completely forgot about my old job. It was like a bad dream that was finally over. Then, on the Monday of my second week, I got an email. It wasn't from anyone at the old company. It was an automated system notification. It had been sent to my old work address, but I had a forwarder set up to my personal email for the first month, just in case any important personal mail went there by mistake. I had forgotten about the system alerts. The subject line was, "Cron job failed. Exec.weekly summary report sh." I stared at it for a second. A slow smile spread across my face. That was the script that pulled all the key performance indicators from half a dozen different data sources, compiled them into a single digestible report, and emailed it to Sabrina and the entire executive board every Monday at 9 a.m. It was the report that made my old team look good. It was the report Bianca built her entire weekly presentation around. I knew exactly why it had failed. The authentication token for one of the APIs it used expired on the 1st of the month. It was a simple fix, a 2-minute job. You just had to generate a new token and update a single line in a config file. I had written down the exact procedure, with screenshots, in the documentation I left. It was page 47 of the Automated Reporting Subsystem Guide. I had a feeling they hadn't read it. I deleted the email, then I logged into my email settings and removed the forwarder. It was not my problem anymore. The rest of the week was peaceful. I was enjoying the work, getting to know my new colleagues. We went out for lunch a couple of times. A whole group of us, guys and girls. We talked about tech, movies, weekend plans. It was effortless. On Friday afternoon, I got an email from someone in the HR department at my old company. Her name was Karen. She was the one who processed my exit paperwork. The email started off friendly. "Hi, Nicholas. Hope you're settling in well at your new role. Just a quick follow-up. I'm finalizing your last paycheck and wanted to double-check your mailing address." Then she got to the real reason for the email. "P.S. This is a bit of a random question, but Bianca's team is having a little trouble with the client data portal. They mentioned you were the one who set it up. Would you happen to remember where the credentials for the main service account are stored? They can't seem to find them." I had to read that twice to believe it. They were asking HR to ask me for a password. This told me everything I needed to know. The situation over there was deteriorating. The client data portal was another critical system. If they couldn't even find the credentials, they were completely lost. The credentials, of course, were in the encrypted password vault that the entire company used. I had created a specific entry for their team and given all of them access before I left. I had also mentioned its location on page 3 of the General System Overview document, the very first one in the folder. I wrote a polite, professional, and completely unhelpful reply. "Hi, Karen. Thanks for checking on the address. It's correct. Regarding the credentials, all system passwords and service account details are stored securely in the corporate password vault, in accordance with company IT policy. The documentation I provided to the team includes the specific entry names. Hope that helps. Best, Nicholas." I hit send and archived the conversation. I had fulfilled my professional obligation. The following week, the real fun began. My phone rang on Wednesday afternoon. It was a number I didn't recognize, but it had the local area code, so I answered. "Hello? Hi, is this Nicholas?" The voice was hesitant. It took me a second to place it. It was Indy. She sounded incredibly nervous. "Yeah, this is him. Who's this?" "It's Indy, from your old team." There was a long, awkward pause. "I'm sorry to bother you at your new job," she stammered. "I know I probably shouldn't be calling." "What's up, Indy?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "Things are not great here," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "The reporting system is still down, and now the main database is starting to act weird. It's throwing timeout errors, and the whole application keeps crashing. Bianca and Alexa have been trying to fix it, but I think they're making it worse." I could picture it perfectly. They were probably in the server terminal, typing random commands they found on the internet, like monkeys with a typewriter. "Sabrina is furious," she continued. "She's been yelling at us all day. A major client is threatening to break their contract because their data exports have been failing for 3 days straight." I stayed silent, letting her talk. "Look, I know how things were," she said, and for the first time, I heard a note of actual remorse in her voice. I know I wasn't fair to you. I just went along with things, and I'm really sorry about that. You did all the real work, and we just ignored you. It was a little late for an apology, but it was something." "We're completely sinking, Nicholas," she said, her voice cracking. "Bianca doesn't know I'm calling you, but I was hoping... Could you just tell me what to look for? I have the documentation you wrote. I'm trying to read it, but it's really complex." I thought about it for a moment. I felt a sliver of pity for Indy. She was weak, not malicious like the other two, but she had still been part of the problem. Helping them would mean letting them off the hook. It would mean my departure had no consequences. "Indy," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I appreciate you calling, and I appreciate the apology, but I can't help you. I don't work there anymore. It wouldn't be appropriate. Everything I know about those systems is in the documents I left for you. I was very thorough. The answers are in there if you look hard enough." I heard her take a shaky breath on the other end. "Okay," she whispered. "I understand. I'm sorry to have bothered you." She hung up. I didn't feel good, but I didn't feel bad either. It was the right thing to do. This was a mess of their own making. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The call came 2 days later, on Friday. I was at my new desk, whiteboarding a solution with 2 other engineers. We were having a productive, collaborative discussion. It was everything my old job wasn't. My phone buzzed. It was an unknown number again. I ignored it. It buzzed again immediately. A second call from the same number. That was a sign of desperation. I excused myself and stepped into an empty conference room. I answered the phone. "This is Nicholas." "Nicholas, it's Bianca." Her voice was unrecognizable. The smug, confident, condescending tone was gone. It was replaced by a voice that was thin, strained, and trembling with panic. She tried to start with small talk. "Hi, how are you? How's the new—" I cut her off. "I'm busy, Bianca. Why are you calling me?" The fake pleasantries evaporated. Her voice dropped to a desperate plea. "We're in trouble," she said bluntly. "The whole system is down. Nothing is working. We followed your documentation, but it's too complicated. We think there might be a core corruption in the main database." I knew there wasn't. The database was fine. It was user error, their error. "Sabrina is on a warpath," she continued, her words tumbling out in a rush. "She's threatening to fire the whole team. The client has officially paused their account. It's a catastrophe." I said nothing. "Look," she said, her voice breaking. "I know we had disagreements, and I know things weren't perfect. But the company is in a really bad spot, and you're the only one who understands how this all works." I still said nothing. The silence was my weapon. She took a deep breath. "Sabrina authorized me to make you an offer. We'll hire you back as an independent consultant. You can name your price. We'll pay you triple your old hourly rate. Just a few hours. That's all we need. Just come in and get us back online. Please, Nicholas, you have to help us." There it was. The moment I had unknowingly been waiting for. The complete and total reversal of power. The arrogant ringleader who had publicly declared her all-woman team a success was now begging the man she had excluded to come and save her. It was a beautiful thing. I let the silence stretch for a few more seconds, just to let her sit in it. Then I spoke. My voice was perfectly calm and professional. "Bianca," I said, "thank you for the offer. I appreciate you thinking of me." I could hear a faint sigh of relief on her end. She thought she had me. "However," I continued, "I'm going to have to decline. I am currently leading a critical project here at my new company, and it requires my full attention. I simply don't have the time or the availability to take on any outside consulting work." The silence on her end was now one of pure shock. But it's an emergency," she stammered. "You don't understand." "I do understand," I said, my voice still level. "I also understand that I provided you with over 200 pages of detailed documentation that covers every possible system state, including emergency recovery protocols. I am confident that if you and your team read it carefully, you will find the solution." She started to say something else, but I cut her off. "I wish you the best of luck," I said. "Goodbye, Bianca." And I hung up the phone. I blocked the number. I walked back to the whiteboard where my new colleagues were waiting. I smiled. "Sorry about that. Now, where were we?" I didn't hear anything from them for a long time after that. The silence was telling. About a month later, I got a message on LinkedIn. It was from a guy named Mark who worked in the networking department at my old company. We had been on friendly terms, a couple of geeks who talked about server racks. His message was short. "Hey man, heard you're killing it at the new gig. Good for you. You got out at the right time. It's a wasteland over here." I wrote back, asking him what he meant. His reply was a eulogy for a department. After I had refused to help, the entire system had stayed down for another 48 hours. They had to eventually call in an expensive outside cybersecurity firm to come in and restore everything from backups. The firm's report, Mark told me, was brutal. It cited a catastrophic lack of internal expertise and gross mismanagement of critical infrastructure. Sabrina had used the report as ammunition. Bianca was fired. Her termination papers cited incompetence and misrepresentation of team capabilities to management. Alexa wasn't fired, but she was demoted and transferred to a manual software testing department in a different building, a corporate dead end. Indy had apparently resigned the day after I spoke to her on the phone. She just walked out and never came back. The department was officially disbanded. Its responsibilities in the single remaining project were absorbed by a larger, more competent engineering team. The all-woman team had destroyed itself in less than a month. Mark finished his message with one last line. "You became a legend, man. The guy who built it all and then walked away as it burned. Everyone knows what really happened." I closed the message. I didn't feel triumphant or vengeful. I just felt validated. My work had mattered, my skills were valuable, my contribution was essential. They had tried to make me feel small and invisible, but in the end, my absence had left a hole they couldn't fill. The final scene of this little drama isn't about their failure, it's about my success. It's me, right now, sitting at a desk where I am respected. I'm working on challenging problems with people who value my input. I am building things, not just cleaning up messes. I found a work environment that was a better cultural fit, just not in the way Bianca thought I would.